All right. Come on in, everybody. Share the feed if you would. Welcome back. Holler Hour, Tuesdays, Thursdays. Hopefully you know the drill by now. I'm Justin. This is Cassie.
Hey.
We are the Tennessee Holler. We also have all these other cool hollers all throughout the state that you guys have made possible by subscribing and chipping in. So thank you for that. Chip in $10 an hour, a month or more, and get one of these sweet hats. We'll send it to you. It all really, really helps. And also, don't forget, this is the Holler Hour. You're supposed to jump in with us.
We want to talk to you.
We want to talk to you. So message us for the link. If you have anything you want to holler about, I mean, are you bothered by the Amy Coney Barrett confirmation? Are you terrified of what's coming down the pike with this election that we have coming up? Anything? Do you want to talk about Jared Kushner's white splaining? That's something that you can talk about. We're happy to talk about any of it. So jump on in, message us. Cassie, how you doing today?
Doing pretty well. I mean, I think that at this point, I just feel like I have this like resiliency in terms of, everything that's been happening. It's just, I feel a little bit hardened, but it also is maybe a good thing because it's protected me from feeling too down in the dumps about this nomination that happened last night. I mean, we all knew it was going to happen.
Yeah, and we knew it was coming. I mean, this was the inevitable. I also want to tell people that on election night, we will be live streaming for a few hours with Afton, and Tequila Johnson's going to join us. We hope you'll make a plan to join us too. We'll be talking about Tennessee focused stuff. We don't really see that anywhere so much. So have the national stuff on, open us up on your laptop, or as Cassie always says, if you don't have a TV, that works too.
No cable like me, just put it up on your TV.
Just put it up. So definitely, make a plan to join us. So we have today, Stephanie Kang is going to join us to talk about some healthcare stuff. Also, Zulfat was at the debate this week, which is pretty cool. A couple of things to mention before we get to that. Biden has endorsed Marquita. We all knew that was coming, but it's just cool to see Marquita getting that kind of love. He said she's a proven leader who will fight for the needs of working families. I think he's absolutely right about that. And then I don't know if you saw this, Cassie. I thought this was pretty cool. This was Marquita posted this on her feed. This was swag surfing to the polls. Did you see this?
I'm in that video.
Oh, you're in it? There
I'm wearing the plaid. Yeah.
Look at this. Look at Tennessee getting it. Is that Kieran behind you too?
Yeah, Kieran's in there.
Look at that.
Elizabeth Madeira, Jen Foley.
First of all, I didn't know what swag surfing was, but I do now. I get it. Look at that.
It was fun.
I don't remember Phil Bredesen doing it.
Phil didn't have you swag surf with him?
Look at that. It feels like from Phil Bredesen to this in a mere 2 years. I think that's really cool.
It's a pretty great change.
Yeah, that's a nice evolution right there. It's pretty cool to see that. I did not know did you know what swag surfing? Like, how did that work?
No, I don't know.
Tell you guys what to do?
I mean, yeah, like obviously it's like super simple, but I think she's been doing it. I think it started at maybe like a couple rallies before that one. And because I saw one of her, she was in like some rural Tennessee county. And I was talking with one of her campaign staffers, and she said that like, it was like mainly older folks, but this was the first time that they did it. And they were like, oh, let's, just see how it goes. And it's this really adorable video. It's similar to that one of just like all of these older folks and Marquita and her staff like swag surfing together. And so she's been doing it around the state since.
Oh, it's really cool. It makes me excited to have her in there as a senator. Samerica, my child, is asking if we have poll numbers for Tennessee. The only poll numbers I've really heard are the Marquita. I just think things are a little bit tighter than people think they're going to be. And, there's a lot of people who I consider to be skeptics that are fairly optimistic and hopeful about what's coming. So, keep fighting. That's all we can do. Obviously the guy in the Oval Office right now is pretty helpful as far as motivating people to get out and vote. We're seeing record numbers all over the place. This was another thing that was in our inbox from a little while back that I just posted on our feed. This is a Road to Victory for Trump parade being posted in halls. And you see there's the Trump Grand Marshal apparently. And then here he is with a gun turret.
Oh my God.
2 small kids. Apparently this is the kind of parade that you're going to be involved with if you go to this.
Is this what you want? Like, is this what people want?
I mean, it's just wild, isn't it? Like,
yeah.
This is first of all, those poor kids,
Honestly.
And I mean, I don't know if that thing's real or not. Is that legal? Like, that shouldn't be legal. And
no, that's got to be some sort of intimidation. Like,
when we're talking about gun safety laws, like maybe not mounting gun turrets on the back of a Jeep. Like,
yeah, maybe not.
It seemed like a pretty reasonable thing to be concerned with.
Yeah.
This, and then also obviously the big news that happened last night, Amy Coney Barrett was confirmed to the Supreme Court. We knew that was coming. I thought Justice Kagan's dissent was the most telling of the, what was it, Pennsylvania or Wisconsin? They basically approved or approved. They denied allowing extra days for ballots to arrive. If you send your ballot postmarked before the election, but it gets there a day or two after the election, they have changed the law to make that not count now.
That was Kavanaugh saying that was kind of like laying the groundwork for saying that, like,
so Kavanaugh said that basically it would cause people to have no faith in our elections if it flips the result. Well, Justice Kagan says Kavanaugh alleges suspicions of impropriety will result if ballots flow in after the day and potentially flip the results, but there are no results to flip until all valid votes are counted, and nothing could be more suspicious than refusing to tally votes once the clock strikes 12 on election night. So what's happening here is Kavanaugh is essentially saying that he's going to help Trump steal the election if it's close enough, and that's something that we all need to worry about.
It really is. It's also just unbelievable to me that, like, for example, like, our elections have functioned this way for a long time. We have a lot of people in this country. You don't get the final vote tally for a long time, like after election day. Like for California, in the California primary, like we didn't have a full, like the primary, the Democratic primary, we didn't have a full count for like weeks afterwards. Right. And so the like, it just undermines, which is again like the strategy as it is with the GOP and our blatantly partisan Supreme Court with Kavanaugh. The strategy is to be undemocratic so that people's votes, if they come in after election day, or if they I'm sorry, not come in, but if they just haven't been counted yet, to say that those votes are invalid. Like the legal standing is that.
Yeah. Kavanaugh's saying it's better to be fast than right. And when it comes to elections, that is not true.
That you would discount what it is, like what our elections are and should be, are that every legal vote is counted, and that determines the outcome of the election.
Right, but the key word is legal, and so that's what they're doing. They're now changing.
But saying that it's not, it just hasn't been counted.
Focused on judges, and this is, what they're doing is rewriting the laws to make sure that we have minority rule in this country, and they're doing a really good job of it. And the only way to overcome it is by voting them all the way the fuck out, which is what we need to do. Yes. And, that's why this is such an important thing, because we're already very far down the wormhole. It's already very hard for Democrats, frankly, to win elections in a lot of the parts of this country, even when they get more votes. And, we've got now 6 justices appointed by presidents that didn't win the popular vote. I mean, we're very far from a representative democracy, and Republicans will say, well, we're not a democracy, because now they've decided democracy is a bad word. And, they'll point out we're a republic, and that's what they hide behind. So, we just have to get out and vote and change things. And that's really what we need to do. In the meantime, we've got people like Jared Kushner in serious positions in this country. He did some real white-splaining this week. He was talking, first of all, there's this billboard that the group who shall not be named, because Cassie gets mad at me, put up in Times Square, talking about how Kushner said New Yorkers are going to suffer and that's their problem. And then Ivanka pointing to these numbers of people who are dead, and they threatened to sue. The Lincoln Project said tough shit, they're not going to take it down. And then Jared Kushner went on Fox and did this interview, which was absolutely incredible. I'm pulling up the clip now. This was him talking about Black people complaining and why they just need to go ahead and vote for Trump.
And again, one thing we've seen in a lot of the Black community, which is mostly Democrat, is that President Trump's policies are the policies that can help people break out of the problems that they're complaining about, but he can't want them to be successful more than they want to be successful.
Wow. I mean, that is just a stunning thing for a white guy born on third base to say, that he can't want them to be successful more than they want. Like Black people just don't want to be successful. So that's why they're struggling. And it has nothing to do with, decades and centuries of oppression. It has nothing to do with racism and Jim Crow laws and redlining and, the lack of equity and, the impossibility of gaining wealth over generations in this country. No, it's just that they don't want to be successful and they don't listen to Trump. And that's why the things that they're complaining about will never change. That is white supremacy in a nutshell right there. Yeah. It doesn't always come with a hood. Sometimes it comes with a suit and tie and a preppy haircut.
A lot of times it does. Yeah. And it's really sad that that type of messaging also works so well on so many people. So many people are just indoctrinated into that type of hearing that line. It doesn't even ring a bell for them. They don't even bat an eye. And so I think that we just have a lot of work to do in terms of trying to combat that narrative. It's really, really unfortunate and damaging.
White people go, there are white people who go, yeah.
Yeah. They don't even think twice.
A Black person hears him say that and they're just absolutely, they get it right away. They know exactly what that is. And, that's why that has to be called out. It wasn't the only horrible thing that he said in that interview. Let's not spend too much time on him. Let's go ahead and talk to Stephanie right now.
Yes.
Stephanie, how are you? Welcome.
Hi.
Welcome.
How are both of you?
We are good. We are just bitching and moaning. We're complaining about Jared Kushner.
I don't know if you could see me, but the whole time I was like, yes.
It's feeling
he is terrible. How are things going we should let people know that you're from Rep. Jayapal's office. Yeah. You have been working on healthcare stuff for a long time. You're a big proponent of Medicare for all. You guys wrote the bill on Medicare for all. Thank you for pushing for that. And how are things going right now? What's the climate, the healthcare climate, especially with Amy Coney Barrett getting confirmed last night?
Oh my goodness. I think that right now, everything just feels so fragile, not just in terms of the healthcare, but our democracy.
Yeah.
Healthcare is obviously intertwined with that. And I think right now, this whole year has just sort of been a onslaught of bad news after another. So it's been hard to maintain that focus, but I think it's really important, especially right now, especially with the election coming up and reminding ourselves of really what's at stake and why that should motivate us to stay really focused. So there's really attacks coming from all different angles. This is not just about healthcare coverage. This is really across the board about protections for our LGBTQ communities, our immigrant communities, our reproductive health. So it's a lot to think about.
Right. And so I guess before we talk, I want to talk about kind of how you think this is going to go with Amy Coney Barrett and, where we're headed on the healthcare front. But first I want to ask you, we're in a pandemic. The pandemic has held up a mirror to our society. Has there ever been a more obvious moment, a moment that makes it more obvious that Medicare for all is what we need in this country?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think what's sad is that way before the pandemic, really our country was in crisis. Our healthcare system was in crisis. As polls have already shown, 70% of people believed our healthcare system was in crisis. It was the number one issue at the polls. Again, this is before the pandemic. Leading cause of bankruptcy was medical claims. 87 million people uninsured, underinsured. All of the statistics that we had beforehand.
By the way, we're number one in medical bankruptcies here in Tennessee.
Oh yeah, Tennessee leading and all of that. Exactly. And so I think people were aware that this was a problem, but I think that what the question was what kind of solution do we need? How bold or how big of a solution? And so what I think COVID-19 has done really is just shown us that this is a very deep-seated issue. This is much more than just trying to provide some coverage. This is really about guaranteeing protection, right? And in your most vulnerable times, at all times, not just when you're employed, not just when things are going well, but from, every moment from birth to death. So I think COVID-19 has made that very clear.
Absolutely. And, so many people have lost their jobs, and with that goes their employer-based health insurance. Pretty clearly not an answer if you're one of those millions of people who have lost their jobs. And then now we have Amy Coney Barrett. I know we would all acknowledge that the Affordable Care Act isn't perfect, but clearly that's now under threat. What do you think is going to happen to the Affordable Care Act, and what are people saying on the Hill?
Sure. I mean, I think that there's a lot of different attacks that are about to happen on the ACA, not just about whether or not it's constitutional, which is coming up very soon after the election, but also about different protections that it provides for different communities. And so, I mean, what she has shown us through her previous actions as a judge is that she definitely does not agree with a lot of the different parts of the ACA, but also in terms of different protections across for either different vulnerable groups or reproductive health. And so, I mean, I think we can sadly assume that she will strip away at least significant parts of the ACA. She will definitely reduce or increase restrictions on reproductive health. She'll increase restrictions on access to health for immigrants. And then she'll also, I think, she had there was a question that asked her if she thought the Social Security program and Medicare was constitutional, and she refused to answer.
Right.
Now we're even like, okay, wow, it's not just the ACA, it's really across the board in terms of healthcare. We don't have a judge who even thinks that those basic programs that we've had for a very long time are constitutional. So
well, she won't answer anything. I mean, she basically sat in a job interview and said no comment about everything because she knew she already had the job.
Exactly.
But we all know why she's being sent up there, and it's no surprise. Have you had a chance to read President Trump's healthcare plan that he gave to Leslie Stahl, the 3,000-page thing that he handed her? Did you have a chance to flip through that?
I can't tell. You're being sarcastic. Yes.
Yes.
The blank pages.
Yes.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, and I think people forget too that there were multiple Republican plans that were introduced, but they didn't pass a Republican Senate, right? Like they didn't make it through when the Republicans had full control of Congress.
Right.
So, I mean, the best plans that they've been able to come up with are clearly wrong because, nonpartisan entities like the Congressional Budget Office did an analysis and told you not only will this raise costs insanely, it will lose protections and coverage for millions and millions of people.
What is your feeling about Joe Biden's healthcare plan? And obviously you guys are on a different page than he is, but is the idea basically let's get him in there and then we'll turn around and push him from the left or whatever side you want to call it once he's in there?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. So my boss was actually the chair of the unity task forces that were set up by Senator Sanders and Vice President Biden. And so they came up with this platform sort of to redefine what a Democratic platform is going to look like, hopefully in a Biden administration. And, I think different members of Congress, and I know Representative Ocasio-Cortez just recently came out and, I think she summed it up perfectly in that it would be a privilege to push Biden than try to operate under a Trump administration. And so that really no one can underestimate the threat to our democracy, to our society that is Trump. Under a Biden administration, I mean, I of course, that plan is nowhere near where I think we should be. I don't think it rises up to the occasion that COVID-19 has laid out for us in terms of what we really need to address. That being said, it definitely lays out different foundations that are key to Medicare for All. And so a couple of those things is his public option. He has committed to us that he will remain it actually public, which sounds funny, but the public option is going to be administered by Medicare, not by private companies. And so we're going to be expanding public health insurance for people. We're also going to negotiate drug prices, which is going to provide real relief for people. Medicare right now is not allowed to negotiate drug prices, which is nuts.
Right. Unbelievable.
Are the largest purchasers
That's all you need to know.
in the world, right? Exactly. And so the fact that we're able to do that he's committed to that is huge. And again, is a staple of the Medicare for All bill. So we're going to see parts of these foundations being laid out. And how do we just make sure then to ensure that we're going to limit the ability for private insurers and the healthcare industry to influence whatever public option bill comes through. And
that's going to be the hard part. I mean, they definitely have their tentacles in both sides of this equation. You know, it's not like Joe Biden's been running a pack free, campaign in his own right. So it's going to be hard. I mean, but it is night and day. And I guess you're closer to this than we are. Does he at least seem like somebody who will listen?
I think that he definitely will create spaces for this input. And, my former chief of staff for Congresswoman Jayapal, he is actually in the Biden transition team. So he has delegates from progressive offices and progressive spaces who are part of the transition team, who are intentionally trying to place people with progressive backgrounds in different positions.
That's good to hear. I mean, Cassie, you and I talk about this a lot, where I think, Cassie's a true-blooded progressive, whereas I tend to sell out and retweet the Lincoln Project every once in a while, but Cassie's been feeling like maybe there isn't that progressive influence inside the Biden camp as much as we would like to see. So, right, is that right, Cassie?
Yeah. Well, I guess I just had my question on that would be, what do you think, Stephanie? What do you think that if we are lucky enough to have a Biden administration to push on, what do you think that the most tactical ways that the left can push for Medicare for all will be once that happens? What are, I know that at least the way that I think about it is a lot of times when people start to receiving a service like they did with the ACA, that they don't want to let go of it. So I think that the more that we can start, as you said, with Biden's plan, we'll get a little bit more here and there. Of course, I want it all as soon as possible with Medicare for all. But what do you think tactically the best way of kind of messaging Medicare for all off of these, incremental steps might be?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's also another strategy happening too, because even if Biden is elected, we still have our Supreme Court, and we still have the chance that the ACA is dismantled, right? So this urgency that's going to happen if/when the ACA is truly threatened in its existence, and pre-existing conditions and protections, et cetera, all the things that we've been talking about, when that happens, I think it's really going to bring to the forefront how fragile and fragmented our current healthcare system is. I mean, this is they're able to peel away these different things because of this sort of disheveled way our healthcare system came together.
Yeah.
Right? And so I think it's going to push people to demand something more fortified, more centralized, more stronger, right? And so I think that part of the conversation, I mean, that's really what happened when Senator Sanders ran on Medicare for all the first time in 2016. The Republican Party was running on repeal and replace. And that was so unpopular, not just because people were supportive of the ACA, but because people recognize how, again, insecure our current healthcare system is. And so I think that translating that energy and making sure that people are understanding what is at risk here, translating that, and then making it the case very, very clear that we are not here for small fixes anymore. We have to address the root of the issue in our healthcare system. I think it definitely has to be highlighted. I think, if I'm frank, I don't think a lot of people that I have met who work for the establishment, especially in the health policy space, have personally experienced how broken our healthcare system is. They don't know.
Right.
They haven't.
That's so huge.
Yeah. And so I think we have to remind them.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, I think.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that I totally agree. I think that that's a large part of what the left needs to be doing. And I think that, with Representative Jayapal, you all in her office, Bernie Sanders, and the folks that have been pushing for this, and other large policies like the Green New Deal, sort of more they're policies, but also more ideological, just sort of statements of values. I think that expanding the expanding people's possibilities and horizons of what's possible and what we can do is so incredibly important for the left to be pushing for, because people have been sold, this sort of neoliberal ideal over the past few decades that we're only going to get, half measures, when in reality, if we brought back the New Deal coalition but made it multiracial this time, we could actually get a whole lot more.
Yeah, definitely. I think the danger with obviously incrementalism in general, but the danger with the next 4 years, if Biden wins, is not enough changing.
Yeah.
And because what's going to end up happening is the next Trump will be worse because he won't be such a fucking buffoon. And now they've seen, they've seen the hate works but let's pair it with some, some slickness. Like I've heard Carlson's name mentioned and people like that, and if somebody could get their act together and ride the same wave of hate, it could be even more insidious next time. So
totally.
we need to show them if we win, like, oh, this is what you get when you put Democrats in charge. This is how your life will really change. Is that how you feel too, Stephanie?
Absolutely. I think this is so important to drive home. Trump is a symptom, not the cause, right? He is the result of our government failing so many different people for so long in delivering what they really need. And I don't blame people who support Trump because they find somebody who is, talking about, speaking in the way that they want to hear in terms of, well, okay, I have an issue, of course, with a lot of the more like racially charged issues, but in terms of hearing a politician who is talking about, understanding the government has failed them, that is for them, and we haven't built up that trust.
I understood it last time.
Yeah,
this time's
a little hard.
Like anybody who voted for him last time, maybe they didn't like Hillary, they wanted to change, whatever. That's fine. This time now, we sort of have the proof. We've seen what happens. People are dead. Like, okay, let's now walk towards the light and make the adult decision here. And that's how it feels anyway. I have a hard time really understanding how people can get behind this guy at this point. But I don't think it helps to shame people for their vote last time,
Yes,
right.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And definitely I should specify in the beginning, I can understand why people were drawn to him. I think, I absolutely agree. If we don't deliver concrete relief for people's everyday lives in a real way that they can feel, we will find another Trump again. And I absolutely agree. I think, even God forbid even 4 more years on something like Trump. Really, what the people don't realize is just even already. I think what we have become comfortable with, what we have allowed from our political structures, we're down a very slippery slope.
Well, there's an appetite for help right now too. Like the stimulus that is not going to get passed for whatever reason. It's like 75% of the country wants it.
Right.
People want to like help people through this. People want subsidized daycare. People want checks in people's pockets. People want healthcare. Like this is a moment where it's like, oh yeah, we're deeply flawed. There's a lot of fissures in the system. Like let's fix it. And so that's why, we shouldn't be going at this with the brakes applied. Like we should really be trying to fix things in a very serious, real way. So I appreciate the work you're doing. Definitely stay in touch.
Sorry, go ahead.
What were you going to say?
I was just going to give Stephanie an opportunity before you go to plug your event this evening as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, definitely. So, hi, everyone. We have a Medicare for All Tennessee coalition that we've built with a series of different progressive organizations across Tennessee who are supportive of Medicare for All. And we just have a webinar tonight. It's called What's in It for Tennesseans on Medicare for All. And we really just wanted to bring this conversation here to Tennessee. I think that there's a lot of confusion, especially.
That's tonight?
Yes, that's tonight. At
Very cool.
Central. Go ahead.
I was just going to say Wendell Potter has an incredible story because he was a former health insurance VP of communication. Like he was part of the problem and he admits it. And so he's a health insurance executive turned Medicare for All advocate. And, he basically openly admits that the talking points that like Canada doesn't get it right or all this other bullshit that they try to sell us, that those are talking points, insurance company talking points. So that's awesome that you're going to have him on.
Definitely. So if anyone is interested with what Justin just said, please join us. We also have Dr. Paris, who's an awesome advocate, and then Tammy Sawyer, who's the county commissioner for Shelby County. Really amazing speakers who have different perspectives on why we need Medicare for All and what that means for Tennesseans. So.
Cassie, I think we should try to grab some clips from that. If
I'm planning on it.
Good. All right, perfect. Stephanie, thanks for joining us. Come back soon and definitely stay in touch with us. Thanks for the work you do. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, y'all. Bye.
Appreciate it. Awesome.
All right.
Yeah, Rep Jayapal's office is, at the heart of all of the good work. And, I think we're both obviously open about our support for Medicare for All.
Yeah.
This half measure stuff isn't working. Every other industrialized nation has it. It's time for us to have it too. We shouldn't be depending on our employers to, allow us to live. I mean, the thing that I always go back to right here in Spring Hill, when, UAW went on strike. GM, the first thing they did was cut off their health insurance.
Right.
Like, think about the leverage that bosses have over workers simply just for that reason alone.
Yeah.
And so, it's a way to empower workers, and it's a way to take care of each other.
Yeah, just think about it through the lens that the right always uses of freedom. Like we don't have freedom from corporations, and one of the many reasons that we don't is because our health insurance, our healthcare is tied to our employer so often. And just think about how liberating that would be if we didn't have to worry about that.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. The freedom to do what? Like, they never finished the thought. Freedom to die, freedom to not have healthcare. No, freedom is about the freedom to choose your doctor, the freedom to see a doctor. Like, freedom is such a useless word the way they use it. And, you can flip it around and make it go anywhere you want it to go. And they just throw it around so loosely. It's like almost as useless as socialism.
It really is. I hope that they just like completely erase the meaning of it eventually, because it is so incredibly useless. Yeah. Oh, hey, Zulfat.
Well, speaking of freedom, Zulfat, how are you? We got our next guest here. Was at the debate this week. Zulfat, you survived.
I think you're muted. Can we unmute?
Can you go now?
Now we can, yeah. You survived the debate.
I did, and that's something. So
yeah. Let's go back to that for a minute. How was it? Tell us about your experience.
Oh my God. Where do I start? I think it was a great thing for Belmont. I think it was a good thing for Nashville. I think it was personally a great thing for me to be able to be in the audience, and I don't want anything to take away from that. I think it was important for me to be in the room and to show that my kind Americans and we have a voice and we're here and we're represented. I think all of those was good. I think in terms of the debate itself, I had the privilege of meeting President Obama in 2014 when he came to Nashville. And there was a few of us in the room. And I could remember sitting there thinking, oh my God, I'm in the room with the president, the charisma, the personality. I did not feel that this time around.
Why?
I did not. I mean, I wasn't. No, it was just. I mean, so I had the opportunity to actually see both of them, both Vice President Biden and President Trump, at my son's graduation a couple of years back. Trump's daughter was graduating, Biden's niece was graduating, so I saw both of them from afar. And so seeing them in the all I could get was the same vibe that I got the first time I saw them together, was like the character, the personality. So sitting in the debate I was just listening to the president. I'm thinking, oh my God, he's very good at manipulating things, at changing things, at, like, oh my God, did he just say that? Like, really? I think if you've never had it before, if you don't know the facts, it can convince you, honestly.
Right.
Because he's very good at changing things. And I'll give you a good example. One that really got to me. The president kept saying, I prepaid my taxes. I prepaid my taxes.
Right.
When they were talking about his tax return. And I'm sitting there as a CPA thinking, duh, we all prepay our taxes. Like you didn't do anything special. When they take out your withholding from your paycheck every 2 weeks, you're prepaying your taxes.
Right.
When you send in your estimated taxes as a business, you're prepaying your taxes. And the fact that you prepaid your taxes doesn't mean you don't file the return or you don't show the return. Like, why is he making it sound like he did us a favor because he prepaid his taxes? And I'm like,
right. He's good at
really
these little excuses, and then the audit thing that he's been under audit these years. But I think you're right. The word you used was manipulation. Like you saw it in that 60 Minutes interview too, where he looks at Leslie Stahl, he puts his hands there and he says, here's the thing, and like he tries to make you believe it. It's like the Jedi mind trick. And if you don't know, if you don't know the truth,
don't know the facts, if you don't. Okay. So with the audit, right? Again, I'm an accountant. I'm a CPA. I've had taxes done and clients audited, right? for you to be audited, you file a return. The IRS is saying what you filed is not correct, but you have filed something. Either you disprove it and said, well, I'm correct, and they leave you alone, or they penalize you for not filing the right thing. So there is a tax return filed, wrong, right, or not. Why can't he show that and said
Right.
he filed the right thing? They're still looking at it. Once we finish the audit, if there's a correction, we'll let you know. Why are they scared to produce what they filed
Right.
if it is correct? I mean, like, the whole thing is just like, again, I can look at that as somebody who's a client audited and be like, what is the big deal? You know, if my clients are audited, I have confidence in what I filed. I've never been through an audit that went bad. The IRS come checks it and then they let you go. I've had situations where my client actually ended up getting money back for something. You know, it's different situations, but I've never been
He's
penalized.
just a liar. He's just a
Yeah,
liar.
that's the thing that I kept thinking, oh my God, this guy is just manipulating things and just changing the things. And he's saying it with so much confidence that if you don't know
Right.
your fact,
Yeah,
if
I
you
think it's
don't know your fact,
I think it's the confidence that like really sells it,
Yeah.
because he says everything with such confidence. As you said, like he's lying, he's manipulating, but he does it with the hand gestures, he does
Right.
it with the confident voice, so he can sell it if people
he
don't
can
know
sell
better.
it to if you don't know. And that's
He's a
why I think
salesman.
it's important for people to know the facts and to be,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, oh, look how much he did for black people. And I'm there like,
Mm.
No.
he's
Yeah.
done more than anybody. And I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't just
hello?
assert
Yeah.
whatever you want.
No,
You
it's
cannot
true. It's
the
true. He's
fact that you
definitely
said it doesn't mean it's correct. It doesn't
Right.
mean it's a fact. Like you can. And another thing that got to me was, having gone through COVID, and made it, thank God for him and his family. I thought he would have a change of heart, right?
Mhm.
The
gotta have
fact
a
that
heart
he
for it.
got that state of the heart medical care, he
Yeah.
was able to be flown into to a place, have the care that he needed, something that a lot of people don't have access to, something that people go through. They don't even have insurance. You're just talking about it, right? And so I would think somebody will come back from that and said, what I got, what made me and my family well, let's make sure that every Americans have it. But still, he did not get it. He still did not get it. I'm sitting like,
No,
what would it take?
if anything, it's the opposite because he came
It's
out
the
looking
opposite.
looking
Yeah.
stormy, so it's
It's
like,
the
Stronger.
opposite.
yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
it's like it's basically lost touch with people if it's not about money.
Right.
It doesn't do anything for him. And even the money thing, I kept telling someone that people talk about the president's acumen for business. And I'm thinking the president got money to start his business from his dad.
That's
And
right.
he's filed bankruptcy like how many times?
So many
Or
times. It's either his
or
Like
dad
how
or
can you
Russia that
put
has
that
bailed him
up?
out.
Like how
he
can you
drove
put that up
casinos
as the
bankrupt. Like, that's
example?
hard to do. Yeah, it's
I'm
really
telling
ugly.
you, I'm just sitting there like, and then when he talked about being the least racist person in the room, I'm like, okay.
Yeah,
I mean,
unbelievable.
again, with a lot of confidence, things that are so far from the truth that I think he believes it. And I think the rest of us are idiots that we just take it because he said it. It was one of the. I was just sitting there like, Lord Almighty, help us.
You've
That'd be
been
Like
so wild to hear in person live.
yeah, I
Like,
know. It would be quite a memory.
so it was something else. And here's something that I found out after I left the debate. So you guys watching from home, you did not hear every comment because of the mute button, right? We
mm.
did not have that in the off. So we heard everything.
That's
So
funny.
so so when I got home and my husband was talking about, oh, we could see the president talking and we couldn't hear what he was saying because of that button, and everybody was like, the button won. I'm like, which button? We heard everything. We did not, we heard everything.
Yeah.
We didn't have that opportunity. We couldn't mute anything. We heard it all.
But it seemed like the threat
Oh.
of the button had him on his better behavior, at least.
I think it did. I mean,
Yeah.
I will say this: the debate was very civil.
Yeah.
It was better than the first one. I think
Definitely.
there was
Low
actually
bar.
there was
Right.
there was debate, and both of them were able to make their point. I think that was good. But it's just that when you're debating and you're debating passionately about something that is important to you, it's also important that you say the fact. That it should not just things that you're making up on the spot, or that
Yes, that's
you
tends to be
I
one of
think
the important parts.
facts matters, and I think that was missing in most of the
So I
speech.
want to ask you about the protest that you just organized, or the, I guess the rally would be a better word for it. But first of all, yeah, and SARS. But I also want to hear, you've been a councilwoman now for a while. After winning, how has that been going? Like, what's your experience been like on the council?
Oh wow, 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 wow. It's an honor, and I would not take that for granted. I think having the opportunity to be at the table where all those decisions are being made, I am still grateful for the opportunity to be there. I will say that we've been putting out fires from day one. As soon as we got in, it was just bombshell after bombshell that we've had to deal with. But I really do think that we have a good council, and I think that we're looking at everything. I know that a lot of people are upset about some of the decision, but the way decisions are made is based on the information that you have, the facts that you have at the point that you're making the decision. And I think that based on where we are, what we have, the information that we had, and the decision that we had to make. I think we just had to do what we had to do. I'm asking everyone to be patient with us. Hopefully, this second year. In fact, in the last month, I've done about 3 or 4 bills on procurement. I've done, there's so many things moving that I think people should be patient. I'm against the referendum, in case you don't ask, because I think that would send us backward again. Was go back to putting out fires again.
The
Without
referendum, so people know, this is the property tax
Yeah, this
referendum.
is the
That
property. This is the property tax referendum. There is a movement to roll back the property taxes.
Right,
Uh,
and
and like,
so what's
yeah,
been going on is they seem to have framed this as a 34% tax increase, but it's actually really a less than 1% tax increase, because it's going from like 2% to 3%. It would still be the lowest property tax of the 4 cities in Tennessee.
Tennessee.
And it's a big fight coming from the Koch brothers.
It is, and what I want people to understand is that not to again facts and lies, manipulation. Yes, the tax did go up, but our taxes is still lower than most cities. The things we should have done many years that we did not do. The hole is very deep. The comptroller told us some things we had to do, but at the same time, there's still services we have to provide. And if the referendum just pass, it will affect the people, whether people know that now or not. And I think it's important for people to look at the fact, and for people to allow us to walk through this. This mess was not created in one cycle, and we're trying to unwind it as best as we can. And I think I'm asking people to just give us the time to do it, and to do it right.
Okay, and then let's talk about the rally. Tell what's going on in Nigeria.
So the rally, it's a culmination of people's being fed up with some of the things that are going on. There's a lot of corruption in Nigeria. There's bad governance. There are a lot of people suffering. For example, politicians in Nigeria makes, hmm, Lord, 35,000 a month dollars, which the equivalent is like 15 million naira back home, whereas you have citizens making $300. And so you have abject poverty, and you have a few people controlling the wealth. But what prompted the protest is that the police, this part of the law enforcement, we have a special squad that is supposed to be anti-robbery, but this squad is actually being targeting youth. So there are cases of them stopping people with iPhone just because they have an iPhone, or because they drive a good car, harassing them, collecting bribes from them, and it's escalated to the point where some people were being killed in their custody. And so a lot of kids are now coming out and saying the government needs to stop that. The government needs to make sure that SARS, or the equivalent SWAT, is not doing this to the people. But more than anything, the youth are now saying that we need to have good governance. This idea of the wealth just being with the politician has to stop,
So
because
it's
the
a youth
police are
movement.
taking bribery because they're not being paid well too. So
It's a
all
youth
that
movement, basically.
it is a youth movement. It is. I mean, it's incredible. They've been able to mobilize, raise money, do a lot of things in a very short time. I think the government tried to respond by changing SARS and have a new squad called SWAT, but it's basically the same people, and the kids are
And
not
what
falling.
is SARS?
Yes, is SARS, is a special anti-robbery squad.
Okay.
Um, is the group. It's basically law enforcement.
So it's like
Basically, in
ICE.
a nutshell, it's police brutality.
It's like
Mm.
ICE.
Trying
It's
to
like
put an
their
end.
version of ICE kind of thing.
Um, Not because ICE will be immigration, right?
Right, but it's
And
like
so,
a group,
but
a
it's
law
like a
enforcement
special
group.
squad.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
yes, that is supposed. So basically, it's police brutality, bad governance, and corruption. I think
Mm.
that's what the kids are fighting for, because there will be no Nigerian left if things continue the way it's going, and a few people are stealing. It's a very rich country, but our politicians are stealing it. Period.
And what
Uh,
happens with the massacre?
with the massacre, and so during the protest last weekend, the government actually sent some soldiers to where these protesters, peaceful protesters, are, and they opened fires on them, and a lot of people got killed. And so again, saying that people should have the right to protest. People should be able to peacefully dissent with the government, and for the government to clean up its heart. So that's what we're saying. So the rally, basically, for those of us that are outside the country, is a solidarity to say we heard you,
Hmm.
we're with you, we support you. The other thing is to amplify their voices. I remember the rally, a lady came and said, "Is that for the virus, the SARS virus?" I'm like, "No,
Oh,
not the virus.
Right,
It's
that's what I
police
thought when I saw it
brutality.
too.
It's a
That was
different
the first
SARS.
thing I thought. Yeah.
It's a
Uh,
different SARS.
different SARS.
so
This is
that
police brutality.
one thing,
It's not the virus." And so
one thing that
making sure people know about it.
not a lot of people know this, I don't think, about you. I only know it because I ran for Congress in this district, but you basically spent a lot of time in Bolivar, Tennessee, in
Yes,
rural Tennessee.
I
That's
did.
where you were before Nashville. And
Yes.
so you like knew everybody there. You became like a Bolivar treasure from what I've heard. But you have a unique perspective anyway, but you also spent time in rural Tennessee,
I did.
as a Muslim woman. And,
Yes.
and so like, what are you thinking about this country right now? And like, what's your feeling about what's going to happen in this election?
I'm open that with this election that my candidate, that Biden, wins. And part of what I love about the debate, actually, the best part for me was his closing argument, which is the same for almost everybody. The idea of bringing America together, the idea of making sure that this us and them mentality, that we put a stop to it. Like you said, I've lived in rural Tennessee and I've lived in urban Tennessee. I have friends that are Christian, Muslims, Jews. Being with rich people, poor people, educated, not educated. And in my experience, we have a whole lot in common than what people try to sow to divide us. And I think the more we get to know each other as people, when I first moved to Bolivar, I tell everyone the story of there's a four-way stop sign between my house and my office. And the first time I was at the four-way stop sign, the other three cars were looking at, is she lost? What is she doing here? How did she get here? Right? But fast forward a couple of years later, I'm at the same four-way stop sign, and all of us we cannot hold on to our wheels because we're busy waving at each other. Hey Z, hey, I'm like, saying hi to everybody. That's what comes from getting to know each other. That's what comes from, not letting the hateful rhetoric and the stereotyping divide us. And so I'm hoping that we can get our country back to that. These 4 years have been so polarizing. I think it got worse in the last 4 years for so many reasons. I'm hoping that we can get back to that. That's what I love about this country. We are a country of so many different people, and we thrive in that, and that's part of our strength. The perspective of somebody from the rural area, is different from that of someone from the urban area, right? But putting it all together, it's what makes us a better country, a better state, because we're pulling all our resources and our strengths together. So I'm hoping that's where we get to. I'm hoping that happens.
When are you running for president? I'll vote
Yeah.
for
Oh, no.
You run for mayor first. I feel the
I
mayor
Yes,
coming up.
cannot.
for mayor.
I cannot
President.
manipulate data. I cannot lie like that.
That's a good thing.
I
That's
think it would
another
be a
selling
great
point.
I mean, look, we already had, it wouldn't be you made history in this Metro Council
Yeah,
election.
thank
People
you.
need to know that. And, I think there's more history to be made, but it really is a valuable perspective that you bring to the state. And, Nashville should be proud for having elected you. And, I really appreciate you just being a voice and continuing to speak your mind and staying positive when it's hard for so many of us to do that. So thanks for coming on here. We're going to
Well, thanks for having me.
an election night show during the election. So maybe we'll shoot
Okay.
you a link to pop in.
Okay, yeah, I would love to. Yeah.
Please
Oh,
do.
let's hope we have things. Personally, I don't know if your show wants me to do that or not, but I just hope I have a lot to celebrate. And
Yeah.
I will remind everyone. I know you've been doing that, and the messages is clear that people should go out and vote.
Yeah.
We should vote as if our rights, our life, all of it depend on it, and it's all down ballot. Not just for the president, but
Mhm.
we see what happened with the Supreme Court justices, right? And so, who is in the Senate, who is in the House, who is in our state capital, all matters. And so, people should please go out and vote.
And Metro Council matters.
Yes.
It's very important. There are people around the world that don't have the opportunity to vote. And we all know what people went through, both through the African American community and the women movement to get the right to vote. And I think that for me, having the opportunity to be able to sit in a place where the decision is being made, it's very important. And I tell everyone there's a difference between being an activist and being a legislator. As an activist, you can cry all day, you can tell what the truth is, but you don't get the opportunity to make it into a reality. You have to rely on somebody to do it for you. And that's why I think we need to get people that are with the people, that know what the issues are,
Mhm.
everyday people that have empathy for the people, that have experiences with the people to be part of the decision making, not people that think because they got the best health care, the rest of us don't need it. Or somebody
Right.
that thinks because they got money from their dad to start a business, Black people don't want to be successful. That's being so far removed from the reality. We need people that are close to people, close to the majority of us, are making decisions for us.
Well, we can definitely end it on that positive note. Some Zulfat with some Jared Kushner shade. My day is made. Zulfat, thanks for joining us, and
Thank
come back
you.
soon.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you for
you.
having me. All right.
Yes, Zulfat throwing shade at
Yes.
bringing it full circle.
Here for that.
She didn't even realize that we had showed that clip. She's awesome.
So good. That really brings it full circle.
Well, we did it again. Another Holler Hour in the books. Thank you
Yes.
to the people who have hung on with us. And the audio of this will be available in podcast form on iTunes and wherever else you get your podcasts. Subscribe, chip in if you can. And we got one more of these, and then it'll be next week and we'll have the election. So it's pretty exciting.
Oh, it's going to be here before we know it. Next week, a week from today. And I also just want to shout out what Zulfat did with her SARS rally. I mean, of course, there are terrible things going on in Nigeria, which is prompting this youth uprising. But I think it's so cool that, I mean, obviously she has ties back there, but just so cool that she had a rally here for that sort of international solidarity, which I think is really important to build and to raise that class consciousness throughout the world, because we're experiencing, when she was talking about the massive disparity that's in Nigeria, I mean, it's not as bad here, but it's getting worse every day. So I think it's important to point out that that's something that ties us all together. So I really want to shout out the fact that she did that.
Absolutely. And it's great to hear that it was a youth movement. I didn't even know that.
That's so cool.
All right. We will see you all Thursday, 2 p.m. for another Holler Hour. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks.